My name's Roni Neff, and I'm Research Director in the Center for a Livable Future at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. And I'd like to share the presentation that I had planned to give last night at a board meeting of the Southeastern School District in Pennsylvania, just north of the Maryland line. And I would have described potential public health concerns of having school buses parked next to a large-scale swine production facility. And the community members who had invited me there showed a whole stack of documents during the meeting indicating that they had gone through the proper channels to have my talk put on the school board's agenda. And when we got there, I was told I couldn't speak because I wasn't a resident. So this is what I would have said last night and what I hope that the school district will take to heart. And I want to emphasize that this is not about politics, and the statement that I'm making is based on my own summary of the science. And this is about protecting the health of the children and the bus drivers who would ride on these buses every day. And as well as, since we're partly talking about infectious exposures, it also would affect those who would contact those individuals. So I'm here from the Center for a Livable Future, and we are an academic center focused on the connections between public health, food production, environment, and diet. And there's a particular focus on animal agriculture and public health. And we work with researchers from throughout the university. Let's turn to the scenario that we're looking at. And so here you can see in this graphic, taken from Google satellite images, to the right is where 8 school buses are parked daily for, we're told, about 14 hours a day. And you can actually see them parked there on the day that they took the Google Images shot. And then you can see just over a quarter mile away is where there is a proposed swine facility where they would have 2,450 head of swine. And so the question is this a public health risk? Should the school board be concerned? Might they want to look into alternative ways of getting the kids to school? So I'm going to briefly share an overview of the air emissions that could be coming from this kind of facility, the health effects that have been associated with these kinds of exposures, and in particular I'll talk to you a little bit about antibiotic resistant bacteria that are known to come from many of these facilities. So there are a large number of documented air emissions from large-scale hog operations. First, there's a lot of dust and particles, including bacteria, including antibiotic resistant bacteria, as I'll discuss, viruses, mold, toxins, irritants, allergens, drugs. And then the manure, which is typically stored at the site and then eventually might be sprayed on fields nearby, can off-gas with things like ammonia, hydrogen sulfide, methane, volatile organic compounds, and other substances. So how would kids on these school buses get exposed? Potentially the air, as we know, can travel quite far, and people that are several miles away from swine facilities can sometimes smell the site. So a quarter mile away they could certainly smell it. There will be settled dust, and the air and the dust are going to get in whether the school bus windows are closed or not. Flies as well can easily fly 1 to 2 miles, and these flies can pick up bacteria and then bring it wherever they land. So what are some of the health effects of these types of exposures? And these, what I'm talking about, is community health effects beyond what is experienced by the workers that are in these sites, including increased rates of asthma attacks for those who have existing allergies, bronchitis, cough, respiratory tract and mucous membrane infection, a number of different respiratory effects caused not just by the odors but also by what people are breathing. Another type of effects are headaches and nausea, and then there's infectious disease and antibiotic resistance. So what is this antibiotic resistance that I keep referring to? We know that there's a lot of evidence of antibiotic resistant bacteria that have been found in the environment near animal operations that are using antibiotics in their feed, and this contributes to the epidemic that we are experiencing across the country of drug-resistant infections. And where does this come from? Well, actually, about 70% of antibiotics used in this country are used in animal feed, and they are used to promote growth or enable animals in large-scale operations to basically survive their conditions. They're not used to treat these. This isn't talking about treating illnesses. These are used, quote, prophylactically. And how does this widespread administration of antibiotics lead to antibiotic resistance. And here's a graphic to kind of demonstrate it. You can see here in the gray a population of bacteria and one little red guy that has developed antibiotic resistant genes. And then there's the antibiotic is administered, RIP to most of them, and the one guy survives. And then when that bacterium multiplies, you will see a large population of antibiotic-resistant bacteria, and that has been demonstrated in the environment around swine CAFOs. So in summary, let me return to the initial question. Is having these buses parked so near to the proposed site of this hog operation a risk, and should the school board be concerned? And I would say that we know that air emissions can easily travel a quarter mile. They can settle on surfaces, meaning that those who use the buses could be exposed to the dusts and pathogens and antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Not everyone who's exposed gets sick. We do know that children are an unusually susceptible population, and we know that they pass around infections among themselves. As a public health person, I would say that often there's a situation where we don't know about the health risks until afterwards when something happens, and everyone says, why didn't we do something about this to prevent it? And in this case, we do know about it, and it's still in the planning stage, and the school district has the opportunity to prevent these exposures. I would say public health has to be the priority here, and the school district's transportation policy actually agrees. It states, the main objective of the transportation services is the safety of the children. Thank you.